plastic surgery to promote the album.
Oh no, that's all God's.
Welcome back to the Fame Game. We are sitting in, my guest is sitting in what was my bathtub. I think I'm sitting in the mirror of our former bathroom at our beautiful house in Pacific Palisades. Just want to thank our guests for flying out here. I was respectfully unaware of your level until every single person has been tweeting or DMing or Xing me, whatever, saying, you need to get Nick Shirley and Benny Johnson out to the Palisades. And within like a week of people saying that, here he is. So excuse my naivete of your background, because I'm new to this world of fighting corruption. And so, but based off of my engagement, you have been doing this for a while.
Spencer, I have a 20-person team that works at my company.
There we go.
And we have interviewed presidents, heads of states. We've interviewed governors. We've interviewed quite a few people in the political zeitgeist and ecosystem. My team has never been more hyped than me going on your podcast. They're so thrilled about this. I got a couple of chicks on my team that are really, really, really excited that I'm on Spencer Pratt's podcast.
Well, Heidi, it is. I share it with Heidi, but Heidi's getting her teeth cleaned from my dad. Shout out my dad, who's a dentist. She's not just cleaning her teeth for fun. So, but we have a big New York trip, and unlike me, Heidi wants everything perfect. So that's why Heidi is not here to our audience. She's with my dad, which is still family. She's here in spirit. But thank you for coming out here. My biggest issue with the Palisades and why I've been fighting so hard is I've always been told 2 weeks after any natural disaster, you have that like moment, everyone cares, and then the world happens. And there's so many, horrible news stories across the planet that to keep anyone's focus on something like this, even though 12 people did burn alive here due to negligence, there's people dying all over the world. So you can't keep people's interests. And the local media, I'm almost convinced either they're in with the local leaders on like perpetuating the lie cover up, or their audience just wants hope and they try to sell that because they'll stick to like the rebuilding's so great. They'll tell you, this is my favorite comparison that these leaders say. They'll be like, this is so much faster than Maui. Like, hello, Los Angeles is right there. We're in one of the biggest cities. Maui is an island in the middle of the ocean. You're trying to compare rebuilding on an island versus right next to where everything is. So that's this idea that there's this record rebuilding when I don't even want to, these numbers aren't exact. They're always making up. But I know there's only one house that's been, there's one spec house that James, the developer people have there. Yes. Thomas James, that was the house that the leadership lied about, saying, and all those plans were pre-fire. They were put in. So there's one spec house that was built. And now I think one actual fire victim has a certification of occupancy. So and then there's a third house that I know of, Greg, I don't remember your last name, a contractor who actually, that's part of my CHP story I just exposed. He got a ticket from Newsom CHP in front of his burned out lot for no seatbelt, because I was told by multiple CHP, and again, I love CHP, so I know the CHP are the ones telling me this. This isn't like me shading law enforcement. They don't want to be in the Palisades giving seatbelt tickets. They're ordered to do this type of behavior. So, I had one different CHP like, oh, you call this a Karen? I'm like, no, you guys aren't Karens. But when you're giving seatbelt tickets, it's not your choice. But back to you. Thank you for coming out, because we need as many videos, interviews, because now they did the 1 year anniversary and they're like, oh, 1 year anniversary, Palisades Fire, like, oh, let's move on. But if we let what Newsom did to Campfire, Woosley, the list of fires in California, and respect to all those people that reach out to me and they're like, what about? And I'm always like, yeah, if my house burned in your town, I would, so my goal, once this is the lie here and the cover up, I would love to go to these places like Paradise that still hasn't been rebuilt and, put light onto that. But right now, my life mission is to expose the corruption at LADWP, the city, the state, And I always go back to, and it's my biggest thing I tell people, if Gavin Newsom was a Republican, if the mayor of LA was a Republican, if the DWP, Janice Quinones, was a Republican picked person, I would not be any different. You think I would be sitting in my dirt covering up for anybody based off their political party? So everything I do is just for accountability and the truth and justice. And it would never be different depending on who people vote for. And the other thing is I actually fight for my community, which I want to say 70% of them voted for Kamala Harris. So that's the people that I have been fighting for a year. So when people try to politicize this, or the LA Times tries to label me, they're all incorrect, because I would be doing the same no matter what political party burned my house down, my parents' house down, and my town. So, well,
here's where the politics would be different, because we saw this with Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was on vacation in Cancun when there was a hurricane that hit Texas. And there were reporters sitting there waiting for him at the airport. He was hounded. There's still memes. He still gets roasted for that every single day. Karen Bass was in fucking Ghana. What? Drinking cocktails. There's photos of it. She was like at a tiki party in Ghana. Can somebody explain that to me? Have you ever gotten an explanation as to why during high fire season, your mayor is sitting there in Africa while all of your homes burn? And one other thing, I looked this up on the way to come here, and it makes me angry. I'm sorry, I don't like cursing.
This is an angry podcast.
But like, it makes me angry. I see your hat. I'm sitting here in the rubble, and it's just like affected me, frankly, because I just drove through for the first time Palisades. I've never even been here before. And I've never been to Palisades. I'm not rich enough, fancy enough. I don't have enough reality show credit to come here, but like, it looks so beautiful. And it looks like such a nice community, and so like such a gifted by God like area. I mean, we went up over the mountaintop, and I see the water and the mountains, and the oceans meets the sea. It's such a truly gifted part of the world. And to let it all burn, one is it's a crime against humanity. And then what's happened is just further insults and crimes against humanity. There are like 2.7 million homes, new homes built in America last year, Spencer. Do you know this? New homes, like from the dirt, right? Up. From nothing, presumably from nothing, maybe even like worse than this, because at least this is a lot that's plumbed and everything. These are homes that are built like from nothing that are given to new families. Yet you, as far as I know, have no homes built here. So what's that about exactly? Like, can you explain that? Like, how are millions of Americans and millions of other companies able to build brand new homes out of nothing, and you can't get like permits here a year out, because we're a year out from the fire?
So the first issue goes back to insurance. Newsom created an environment with his Ricardo Lara, who went on 90 vacations, and God knows what he was doing. They created an environment where, again, a lot of insurance people message me and like, I love everything you do, but you're not getting the facts right. I'm not anti-insurance people, because I understand why they dropped everybody. If you leave 50 years of dead brush, or dead fuel, as you call it, surrounding the houses all the way up to their backyards, and you don't maintain them, and you don't make fire breaks, and I'm sure these insurance companies also knew that LADWP had 2 empty reservoirs, and they'll argue and say, oh, that was for drinking water. The San Ynez Reservoir was built for firefighting. The literal designer is in the LA Times quoted talking about when they built it, it was for firefighting. So now after everything's burned, they say, oh, that was for drinking water. No amount of water it was never designed this city to. So first off, it's an insurance thing. Everyone got dropped. And if you didn't get dropped, like for instance, we had farmers, I want to say for 8 years. Oh my God, the hummingbird is on my dog's head. That's incredible. I see you, God. I see you, God, doing great things.
I love it. I love all the hummingbirds, man.
So
can you quickly tell me that story? Because I'm going to forget.
The hummingbirds, when my wife was pregnant with our first child, there was a little nest with a hummingbird egg. And of course, me all into crystals and spiritual stuff. I'm Googling, like, what's the sign of this? And obviously, I find so many things that tell me I'm going to have a magical baby. Like, this hummingbird's a sign. So I started feeding that hummingbird. And then they all started coming. They're all fighting. And then I'm Googling, how do I stop this? So you need more feeders. So next thing you know, I have 60 to 100 feeders. And now I'm getting the bags at Costco, like 5-pound bags of sugar weekly. And it's a full-time job that I actually hated. And now I miss it so much. So that's the hummingbirds.
It's just sugar water. Is that
4
what they're feeding?
cups, filtered water. If you don't, if it's LA water, make sure to boil it, let it cool, mix in the white cane sugar, not organic sugar, let it cool, and then put in the feeder and clean your feeder often. So yes, but back to insurance. So then if like we had farmers for 8 years, we got dropped when everyone got dropped just because everyone got emails that said, due to your GPS of a fire hazard area, you're no longer be. Some people, some senior citizens paid for insurance. I swear to God, 45 years, got dropped on January 1st. Didn't have it's a holiday. They just had Christmas. Didn't have time to re-up. House burned down, 0 insurance. So if you did have time, you were forced on this stopgap California Fair Plan, which maxes out at $3 million. And like for us, we had, I think, $1.2 million covered on our house, which is a 2,400 square foot house. But here's why most people can't rebuild. Now, up to new codes or zoning or permit, I need to put 1.2 million in caissons that weren't here for 40 years for multiple earthquakes, if that's the reason. And the funniest part about that is the same city that I'm suing that will tell you in court, oh, we have no responsibility to make sure your house doesn't burn down. That's weird. That's not us. You care how I build my house, that I can't build it back because I need to have these caissons. What? Because you're worried it's going to fall down the hill? Because you don't care when it burns down. So why do you care if it falls downhill? That would be my choice. I don't have anybody down here below that if my house were to fall, it could just keep falling. So that's why we're not rebuilding, because there's all these I know multiple people that have already had to sell their dirt lots at a loss because now they have to put 60 feet deep to the bedrock caisson. So that's, insurance starts there. The fees that were supposed to be waived, that were told by everyone, we're going to waive your fees.
Yeah.
That's a complete lie. The city
Trump comes here, Gavin gets on the tarmac, Karen Bass, big smile, Adam Schiff, they're all sitting there at that press conference not too far from here going like, we are going to get you building shovel ready tomorrow. Is that true?
No, it's not true. And the fees,
did they lie to you? Did they lie to the rest of America?
It's 100% a lie, to the point where our city council member was just at city council with all the fire victims. Everyone's in tears. They're begging the city council, and the city council of LA goes, oh, well, no, we don't have it in our budget to waive all this. And they're acting like, whatever it is, maybe it's 100 million, 200 million, that they were ever supposed to get that money. No, you let the town burn down. This isn't money. It's not like, oh, everybody chose to tear down their houses and now these people want to rebuild and they're trying to take money that was destined for the city to begin with. No, you're trying to. Here's the crazy part. They're also taxing. That's another thing. All the stuff that you have to rebuild, the sales tax. So LA's making money on, I had to pay for my porta potty. I had to get a sales tax for that. So they burned my bathroom down and now I'm giving LA money for my porta potty on my dirt lot. So just simple things like that are just so crazy. And then the other thing is people are scared to rebuild, first off, because a lot of people are concerned about the soil. I spent almost $4,000 testing my soil, which, you probably have some elevated lead levels, just a heads up, so don't breathe too hard. People are concerned. Why invest so much money when you drive around, 7,000 houses burn, and if you truly go look around, maybe there's 300-400 houses in the works. But the key, what people don't realize, like that house you hear up there building, that was getting built before the fire. That whole foundation, that was a big developer building a house. And I also want to go back to when you said you never come to the Palisades because, not enough reality credits or it was too rich. The most of the Palisades was generational houses passed down, where we're talking great-grandfathers had a place in Palisades. It passes down. So the amount of seniors that are burnt out of here, that aren't rich, that aren't coming back. There was 2 mobile parks that burned down and they can't even get the state. They even tried to, one of the guys in there went to Sacramento, John Brown, and he had a whole initiative and he tried to get Senator Ben Allen to push the state senators to let these mobile park people have even the ability to rebuild. But there's a law in California that actually doesn't protect, it may even be the whole United States, don't quote me, but if you have a property in a mobile home, you built it, you spent $2 million on it, like, cause these are, prefab. Some people have made nice things that look real cool. It burns down. You have no legal right to rebuild the owner of that dirt. So they were fighting for that. State senators, in a closed door, last minute thing. They had a bunch of people. All of a sudden that goes away. So you have mobile home people that now can't come back. The argument of like, oh, we're going to try to get, people are like, there's affordable housing. They're trying to put it in the Palisades. It was already here. There was apartments. There was condos. There was an entire world ecosystem of all sorts of tiers of people with money. So the idea of Palisades being this like rich community, yes, there were movie stars that came here and bought the big houses that you never hear from because they already bought new houses and the Palisades is dead to them. They can't acknowledge why it burned down because then the people they put in power look bad. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, it's not this rich, it's obviously not this poor place, but it's not what, people in the comments section, oh, boo-hoo-hoo, rich people's houses burn down. No, it's actually most of the people cannot rebuild.
I think it's terrible if anyone's house burns down. I think it's terrible if the White House burns down. I think it's terrible if the mayor's house here burns down. Like it's a bad thing when people lose their homes. It's the word it goes like this: lose a child, lose your home. Like those are the worst things that can happen to you, right? Lose your family, lose your home. Like, because your home is actually where your family is, where your memories are. It's where like the personhood of your family, like it is where you bring your babies home to. Like you're talking about with the hummingbirds, like you miss the hummingbird feeders because it's like ties you to this place. It's like your soul, your spirit here. When somebody buys a new house, when somebody buys their first home, and when they like have their first kid, these are like similar energies, right, for people. And it's so violating that they've treated you like this. And I'm looking at these burned up trees. I'm driving up here to meet you, and I'm looking around, and I'm just furious. I don't get angry. I'm a pretty glass half full kind of guy, sunny side of the street. And I'm just furious because I'm seeing these businesses, all these homes, all of the, like most of the homes, like nobody got to evacuate, right? Like nobody got to take their stuff out.
Nothing.
Like, yeah.
Nothing.
So like all your memories gone, all your photo albums. I know people who lost it all. Like
pets. They didn't let people come back and get their pets. Tons of people know that their animals burned alive because when they came, they closed it. When you still could have gotten in and got your pet, they closed Sunset and you couldn't get in. And people could not get their pets. So you bring it to like really think about these people that didn't care about everything burning down, then also didn't let people go grab their pet, which you easily could have got your pet.
What is your message to Gavin Newsom? Because the leaders of California, when Trump was out here, stared straight down the barrel of the camera and said, we will cut all red tape, shovel ready tomorrow. I just drove through 30 minutes of the Palisades and I didn't see anything built. Maybe some dirt's been pulled up, but I didn't see anything built.
My biggest,
it's been a year.
I got, so many things on that. But the first thing that comes to my mind, because you reference the president, is when I first came to this, I watched this film, Hot Shots, about the Forest Service guys and the firefighter, and then I connected with the director who embedded with them for 6 years, and this guy, Gabriel Mann, who's really helped point me in all the right people to follow, the federal fire service guys like Bobby Garcia, these legends. And when you really look into this, you see that what Newsom made fun of the president about, the raking, would have saved our entire town and 12 people wouldn't have burned alive. Because what people don't, it's such a simple thing when you Google, because I was like, what, as a naive person, like, what are you talking about? You Google firefighting, raking, and then you see, oh, it's these dozers, these big bulldozers, and they got these big specialized rake things that clear the dead brush from the state parks that surround communities. So that, I go back to, that was where the fatal error, just not listening after they did that. I guess he probably told them after, I don't know if it was Campfire where they did that last fire when he was president, they walked through it and he's like, you gotta start raking. I don't know when it happened, but that was like this joke that Newsom kept tweeting. And now I know so much about that is why people died. That's why we lost 7,000 structures. Because even if the LADWP didn't have the water in the reservoirs, if we had a proper dead brush maintenance, like the president was trying to tell them, or fire breaks around our community, it would have given time for the firefighters to get up on the hills and dig in like they would tell you and have a chance to fight the fire. But it just right up onto the communities. So yeah, people will argue, oh, some houses would have still burned. Again, I'm not saying they wouldn't. 7,000 houses don't burn if you clear the dead brush. So, moving forward, whoever is our next governor, like right now, this is our time to get ahead of the brush maintenance, at least for this community. You drive over, the next is terrifying to think, next year or before the Olympics, Bel Air Canyon, God forbid, could easily burn down. Hollywood Hills, easily burn down. No brush maintenance. I talked to the head of the LAFD brush clearance unit. It's one guy now. The budgets are so low. And then the scariest part is, and because I know you came out here for fraud, and it's not as flashy as, Somalis taking money from the Leering Center or whatever, but Newsom has taken federal money to actually maintain his state parks as long as he's been the governor. What he does is he lies on it. He says he treats it. He does these, they have all these PR ways to say that they're doing what they're not doing. I know for a fact they didn't do anything in the Palisades. So, that's a fact. But, so the list of why the red tape and, what could be done on that level, I actually don't know the power of what the governor could do, because he already created such a bad situation that I think the ship sailed with the insurance. I think he should have stepped in a long time ago and made sure all the homeowners could actually have insurance in this community. So, and then, like he's right now demanding, like the letter, like, I don't know, it was 44 billion and then it went down to 35 billion and it lists all these grants. It looks like the fire aid scam, just all these NGOs. If you want to demand $40 billion to the federal government to rebuild for victims, that list needs to literally have all the names of the underinsured, the people dropped, what they need to get their houses back. If you want that money from the feds, you give it directly to the fire victims, not whoever on that grant, NGO, therapy, and God knows what the list was like a scary comedy movie. And it was the exact fire aid scam. And then when you look into fire aid, even the lawyers that were hired to defend fire aid, in their defense little paper, they say several of these NGOs gave direct to the fire victims. I asked Google, ChatGPT Pro, Gronk, Premium, whatever. I asked everyone, what's the definition of several? There wasn't one AI Google search engine that gave me more than 10. So on a list of, I want to say 200 and maybe 250 NGOs that took the 100 million that people gave to help the fire victims, the own law firm to defend fire aid said several went directly to the fire victims. So that is the problem that then expands across California with the homelessness and the issues, the money that people actually want, whether you're a taxpayer, you're just a nice charitable person that wants to help a homeless person, help a fire victim, it doesn't go to where it's supposed to. It goes to salaries, it goes to bonuses, it goes to friends, it goes to dinner. God knows what it goes to, but it does not go to the people who need it. And that's my concern when people are like, this is Spencer, people come to me, it's like, you got to get the feds to give the money. It's like, I've been fighting fire aid for a year. That's 100 million. You think I want to fight the federal government to give Newsom $35 billion to help fire victims? No. We need a special board of all parties involved, whether Democrats, Republicans, I don't care who you are, but everyone needs to be involved. And it needs to really look at the victims and how to get funds directly to them rebuilding, because the infrastructure's here. They already came in and re-put the wire, even though they should have undergrounded it. So the water works, the electricity works. What is that $34 billion going to do if it's not literally to build the fire victims' houses back? So if he comes with a new letter to the president that says, here are all the people that got dropped, Here are the people that don't have enough insurance. Here are the people that did have insurance, but the insurance companies won't take their toxic walls out of the house because, oh, it didn't burn down. You just have to live with every single thing that's going to give your kids cancer because that's not covered. So there's so many things that you could do, and so that is my issue with how, Newsom's out, so we should already, it's done. Like, I'm more waiting for the next governor and somebody who will make that, because there's no way the federal government's handing that Newsom one more dollar because it's clear where is all the, you go drive around LA, drive around where is all the money? If we're paying the highest taxes, he already owes, I think, the federal government like $20 billion. So
it's the only guy who didn't repay COVID.
Yeah. So
that's a great question because you've been such a intricate part of LA culture, right? You are synonymous with LA. What's happened in this city in the last 20 years?
That is one of the reasons why, besides the Palisades, why I've expanded my fight, because I realize, so many people, when I started fighting for the Palisades, they're like, start sending me their stories and they're like, what about us? And that's why now I'm like a full-time dog advocate for all the dogs on Skid Row getting tortured because, you close your eyes to all this. And, to be honest, until my house burned down, I didn't want to know what was going on in the world. I had my simple life. I've spent hours just feeding hummingbirds, took my kids down the street to the public elementary school. We did AYSO. I made my Snapchat videos that made enough to have organic groceries. I have my own thing that they burned down and made me have to really open my eyes to so much that's just terrible that I've been just like, don't look to the left, don't look to the right, just get back to my utopia.
Yes.
But now that they burned down my utopia, I don't have that. So now I have to expand and fight for where I grew up. And, I repped LA to the point where like it was cringe. Like I used to throw up West Side hand gestures on red carpets in my 20s. Like I only listened to Tupac.
Please get a West Side hand.
I
please,
saw
just
somebody,
just one.
They just shared that old photo. I was like, oh my God, I invented this cringe thing. So, when I grew up in LA, just to give you a reference of how different it was, driving on the West Side, there was 2 homeless people. On 4th and Santa Monica, in front of my elementary school, there was Mirror Man. And he was always in the mirror, smiling. If he looked away from the mirror, you get a wave. And then right on West Channel, there was Broom Man. And Broom Man was always keeping Channel clean. He was so serious about it. And that was my experience of like what the streets, literally living in LA, driving. And then as these years have happened, it's just turned in. Also, I lived on Skid Row for college, not on the actual Skid Row, above it in a loft on 4th and Main. So I also in college, I know Skid Row was 1 block. It wasn't Los Angeles.
Yes.
It was 1 block. It was very sad then, but from my perspective, people were just on drugs. You were choosing to be there in the sense because you were a drug addict. That, when I say choice, addiction, once they're there because that's where the dealers are. And the more I learn about right now Skid Row, because I'm asking all these people and trying to get questions, the biggest problem is drugs. And if the leaders and elected officials hand everybody brand new fentanyl pipes, hand everyone needles, and allow open use drugs where if I go right now down the street, set up this bench, and I, wear, a nicer little outfit, and I start smoking fentanyl, they are arresting me because they're going to get money out of me. They can, I actually don't know why I get arrested. I would assume because they know they can get money, but I'm getting arrested. Yet you drive around LA, everywhere you go are people doing drugs everywhere. It was starting to come into the Palisades to the point where in front of Palisades Elementary, there was a homeless person, other people will say unhoused person, cleaning her vagina in front of children at 7:45 in the morning on the sidewalk every day. And if she wasn't cleaning her vagina, she was going number 2 on the sidewalk. You'd call LAPD, they would come, they'd say, hey, stop cleaning your vagina right here. That's it. They'd drive away. This is what was coming into the Palisades. It's not like it's all over Santa Monica. It's not Skid Row like when I went to college. It's not. Skid Row is Los Angeles. I'm sure it's all over California, but it comes back to drugs. And that's like the main thing. Obviously, it's back to the fire aid thing. People spend billions of dollars for the homeless industrial complex, but they don't want it to end, because if you're making a salary, which some of these people are making $1.2 million to stop homelessness, you're going and finding homeless people in other states, and you're buying them a plane ticket, or you're getting a bus ticket, and you're bringing them out to LA. You're going to say, oh, we'll take care of you. Come out to LA.
Yes.
Here's a phone. Here's a card, because this is my business. You know, if I was one of these corrupt demons, I would be doing that.
Yes.
You know, so that is the problem, is it's created so much money. And even on the lower tier, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, you know, again, there may be the few good NGOs, but when we're talking billions of dollars, there's some real...
It's immoral. It is indefensible. If you have a brother who's a alcoholic and a drunk driver, and you give him a bottle of scotch and the car keys, and you tell him to go drive, you're committing a crime. You know, it's an immorality, right? It's indefensible to a judge. He goes kill someone. It's indefensible. You could get put in jail. You could be accessory to that. The city of LA, I've been down the Skid Row. We've spent hours there on this trip. They're just handing out drugs like crazy. There's like little drug dens, and they're taxpayer funded. They have little churches set up that hand out drugs too. Clean pipes, clean needles, clean foil, all of it, not only encouraging the drug use, but making more, like wanting more of it. I think it is indefensible. It is immoral. What's happening here is so evil, and it has to stop. How do you clean up LA, man? Like, because I'm driving downtown, I'm like looking around. Like, this is the third world. This is a ghost town.
So Joey, who's saving all the dogs that are being tortured and killed, he's on Skid Row every night, every day. I just was texting with him last night. I said, if you have the power to solve homelessness, where does it start? Because he's there every day, every night. He goes, first off, he said all the Escalades and Teslas and the BMWs that are pulling up every night and every day that are obviously the drug dealers, arrest these drug dealers. So start, you know, people will be like, you know, the homeless is a problem. Well, let's go to the drug dealers. Let's get that. He said it's clear who are the people selling the drugs. It does not take it's the nicest cars pulling up and they're selling the drugs. So go after the drug dealers first. So that way this may change where everyone's hanging out. If you can just sell drugs with no problem on these streets, you know, then why stop? Why are people not going to hang out there? So we got to start with the drugs. You know, and that was the big, like, and then we can go from there, because if everyone's high on fentanyl, and that's the other thing, you know, the numbers are so cooked in the sense that there's city leaders that will brag like, oh, we removed 1,500 people in the last year off the streets, when 1,300 people OD'd that year. And they don't say, but 13 of them died and were removed and are in the cemetery. So they actually, I'm convinced now in my seeing how evil these people are, they're like, oh, the more we kill, let die, you know, by drugs and ODing, it'll help our numbers. So it looks like we're removing them, and we still get the money to launder through our friends for the homeless industrial complex. But, you know, earlier we had a younger 25-year-old guest on, and I feel like the new generation, they're done with, they don't want this either. So it's enough's going to be enough, because people, anyway, with a heart, nobody wants to see people living in encampments, living like this. So it's not a political thing. It's like, where's your human...
Bad for your soul.
Bad
for your soul.
Decency.
Yes.
So, and that's why now I've just expanded, and I try to talk to as many people like yourself or whoever wants to come on the podcast. That's goal is to raise awareness to things that are just not American.
They're all my fellow Americans.
That's my point.
Like it's like everybody who lives here. Who cares if that guy? I don't know who that guy was, right? With that pile of rubble next door to your pile of rubble here. And I don't know if he voted the same way as me, and I don't know if he had the same skin color as me. I don't give a shit. Like, that's an American also, and he doesn't deserve to have all of his life savings burned to the ground and then be left for dead. And then be tortured by the city, which is what's happening to you, by the way. The more I look into it, they're torturing you. Not only that what is some weed? They let all this burn because of some weed? Milk veg. First off, that doesn't sound like anything I want to save. I would never want to save a milk veg. I don't know what it is.
There's no...
Is that it? Is this a milk veg?
If it is, we're burning it.
Okay. Yeah. This, whatever this is.
I don't
This is
know
nasty.
if it is.
Whatever that is.
We're gonna have the plant.
And now I have lead
biologists-
poisoning.
Yeah. Aluminum for sure. And that's the thing. The people that fight for plants, they're all gone. They all burn. The saddest part is those people that fight for plants. We're the animal activists because all the mountain lions died, all the coyotes died, all the hummingbirds died, all the lizards died, all the snakes died. We had bears out here. All the bears died. So we're protecting something that's, again, there could have been plenty of milk veg. You could have just cleared the dead plants out. You could have made a fire break. The scariest part is...
So that's true.
Oh, 100%.
They let all this burn because of weed?
It's these plant people, the carb. So here's the thing. There's this thing in California, carb, and they're trying to help, the air. But by protecting those plants, you led to more 500 EVs burn into the thing. Across the street, that guy had an entire wall of Tesla batteries burned into this guy. So what you did to the air by worrying about the plants and the dozers. So it's this backwards thinking where they protect the plants over the humans.
Somebody told me who's high up and from California that they have a conspiracy theory about why they're not allowing people to build here. And that's because of the toxicity and they don't know how to deal with it.
I wish. They don't care.
Is that it? No, okay.
Yeah, I wish.
But are things toxic?
No,
the
reality is, here's what it comes down to. They don't care if we come back. This is my hunch.
Yeah.
This is what I'm learning. They don't care if the actual victims come back because eventually developers were going to come in. They're going to make billions. We're talking 20 to 30 billion dollars that they would have never got in new taxes, new work. That's all going to a broke city. So if they wait out the single family housing and they let developers come in with all the friends that bankroll whoever they want in positions of power, a couple more years, people are right now of the lots that's sold. I think 40% of the lots that have sold houses are developers. Next year, that's going to be 80%. It's just going to soon enough. And that's just so it's disaster profiteering. So they're like, oh, we ruined our city. We ruined our state. We have no money. We are literally broke. We can lie about all our budgets. But if we just sit back, we can rebuild this entire 20,000 acres, whatever all this is with, and they did just bring in and pass SB 79. And there is people that will say that when this new bus depot goes in the Palisades, they will be able to put 7 to 9 story buildings where single family lots were, if it's a half a mile from that major transit thing. And they will say that's not happening, but let's say it did. So now you have the entire, everything up from a half mile from the ocean, 8 to 9 story buildings that developers will say it's affordable housing, but I just found out from an expert, only 11% of that has to be affordable. So you got all the rest of the percentage, you're charging God knows what for these ocean views and these new high rises in what used to be single family houses on a bluff in the Palisades, or that was in the mobile park. There's 2 mobile parks across the street from Will Rogers Beach that literally would have a walkway onto the sand. So you're telling me they're not waiting out all those mobile home park people to not be able to come back so that can be 9-story affordable housing, 11% of it, and then the rest, the most luxurious condos that somebody's gonna sell for $2 million a pop. City's taking a cut, the state's taking a cut. So I don't know if that's a conspiracy, but when you just sit here all day long trying to be like, because initially when it first burned down and everyone was telling me it's a land grab like Maui, Spencer, don't you see it? It's laser guns, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what are they talking about? It's a land grab? Why would they want some of the wealthiest property to burn down? And then I find out, people like my parents who got their house in the 80s, they don't pay property tax of the new house that's going to get built or the new building in 2028. That's a whole new, what my dad was paying, he could never pay in this new Los Angeles, in this new Palisades. So then you start doing the math, you go, they actually don't care if everything burned because there's so much more money to tax and to make and for friends of friends to develop. So that's why, in my dirt opinion.
It's got to be unbelievably radicalizing for you and for so many other people that have been watching
so people
this.
keep out like, oh.
Because like it could have been anyone's home, you know? The fire could have gone so many different neighborhoods, right? It could have gone all over the place.
Oh, I mean, all of LA could have burned.
Yes.
That's it. Like, they got lucky, that it didn't, because, or maybe they didn't. Maybe that's the whole point. And I keep saying, you think we can have the Olympics here when the fire department is still saying their budgets are cut? There's no clearance of brush on the city lots, on the state property, even after the Palisades Fire. You want to bring in the Olympics when all it would take is a terrorist and his crew to run around on little electric motorcycles, throwing flares into dead brush. They could light the whole city on fire. And we know they just wait till everything burns down. They can't do anything.
Do you think that's what it was?
No, I know exactly.
Can we go there?
Like,
what was it exactly? There's a dude who's in prison right now. Do you think it's that dude?
No, that guy burned 8 acres, and the second he lit the fire, he called 911 12 times. So yes, he should be in jail for burning 8 acres, being an arsonist of that. Who should also be in jail with him are the state park reps who do not let bulldozers come in and clear all the brush around a fire that was just happening because of those plants. So they we have drone footage of 2 days after the fire, the state park, which is in their manual, in Newsom State Park manual, it's their job to make sure there's no dangerous condition to the community and close the state park, which they didn't. They left an entire hillside smoldering visibly on drone footage that people were calling. People have videos. They left it smoldering for 6 days, leading into an extreme red weather, red alert, tweets, government, wind event, dry weathers. They didn't put one fire truck. Newsom will brag, I redeployed all. Not a single fire truck was put into the Palisades where there was a fire 6 days before this extreme weather event. So the only people that are responsible for 12 people burning alive. Also, when we say that number, do you know how many people have died since the fire? Of just emotional breakdown, stress, God knows what. People are dying like with weird pneumonias and, very like post 9/11, Twin Towers, lung stuff. Ugh. So the list of people actually that are dead because of Newsom, our city leaders, the LADW is way past 12, but I could talk forever. And I know you got to keep seeing California and exposing everything I live.
I'm here all day.
Yeah.
Do you think that there should be criminal charges for the negligence here? Because as you just elucidated, this is seemingly a criminal act that could have been prevented.
I flew to Washington on my own dollar, which is I don't have a lot of dollars left here. Flew to Washington to meet with the Justice Department. And I begged them. I said, where is the criminal negligence charges? And, I guess I don't know the balance of like if it looks too political to charge the governor with criminal negligence.
Was that what you would like?
Oh, the Newsom should be charged with criminal negligence. The mayor should be charged with criminal negligence. Janice Quinones, the LADW, criminal negligence. The state park people that have those. They have secret maps that the community that pays for them, our tax dollars, they have secret maps that the fire department can look at when there's a fire, but they can't even keep, of protected plants that they need to make sure the fire department doesn't touch. After the fire department on January 1st put out that 8 acres from that arsonist, the state parks people, they have photos of it. This is true story. Asked the fire department to help them take dead brush and put it back on top of the fire breaks that the fire department had just cleared around where the fire, because they like the optics. They don't want these. Sorry, we're talking true insanity. That is criminal negligence. If this was a private company, these people either would be in jail, they would already have had to pay up. And then somebody like Newsom, there's 10,000 at least fire victims that are trying to get 70% of what they want from the state because it was literally their fault that everything burned. And Newsom calls them, he called us opportunistic plaintiffs. That's what they called us. We are standing
I have to control myself.
in
being so angry.
So that's why people are like, oh my God, Spencer, thanks for doing it. I will never stop doing what I do because of people like that who talk about people who lost everyone, everything, and for some people, their family, and to call them opportunistic plaintiffs for literally for suing you for what you as a government entity are responsible for. So the level of like sick, it's scary. And, so.
I can go personal because everything changed for me when I became a father, man. And this hits so hard. It's just like so real because I think about my own house and I think about my memories and my children, and every father can like see it. How much has like being a father changed you?
Do you know what it's like? You don't, but for anybody to have your 3-year-old son ask, if not on a daily basis, every other day, when are we going home?
Oh, man. Bro.
And then to have your 8-year-old try to be funny and like, be like, our home burned down. We're never going back. And he's trying to like, that's also trauma and emotion that he's processing that, he's trying to communicate with his little brother. And it's like, then they're like fighting. And then to the point the 3-year-old will ask like people like, is your house burned? I mean, it's past what people can comprehend, but it's even worse. Like for my mom has now fallen 3 times since her house burned down and broken her arm, each arm, and now the same one a 3rd time. She's broken her arm 3 times because she's now in a new place, in a condo with a steep staircase and trying to function with her emotion. Like, so yeah, there's the children, but then there's the 70 plus, the 80. There's a 96-year-old lady that was a Holocaust survivor that was at our congressional investigation demanding, saying she literally survived the Holocaust, and she was like, what has happened here? Like the video, anybody should just go watch this woman talk about what she's gone through in the last year, comparing it to nothing she's experienced in her life, just how she's been treating, what she went through, and how just unacceptable everything is. So it's not just like the kids or me, it's so yes, it's, again, I have to get less pumped all day long. Like that's my goal, is like, because it's, you get madder. I just saw a fire victim like a day ago, and she said to me, I'd just been sad for the last year, and I woke up with so much hate in my heart and so much anger. And I said, ironically, and she probably didn't think it was funny, but I was like, I just saw a fire victim last night that said she talked to a therapist or read a book that it takes 1 year to truly process an extreme traumatic event. I was like, it was 1 year last week. So clearly you're on the right path. But she was looking at me like, oh my God. I was like, welcome to being hate in your heart for a while, lady. So yeah.
What's your message to young kids? Because you nailed it, man. When you're like, young kids are over this shit. Like they're done with watching their society crumble, with watching their houses burn down, and you're taking a stand. Like instead of just taking it, like the Hollywood actors who, like you mentioned, goes and buys something else, you're taking a stand. You're saying, this is my dirt, I'll defend it. And that's really inspiring to a lot of people. Most people just get kicked and then they just stay down and they keep getting kicked. And you're not doing that. And that's really remarkable. Like, in fact, you're entering the battle even more so and scaring a lot of powerful people by doing so.
Well, the key I try to do, and I would recommend it to adults, younger people, anybody, is to just stay driven in facts. Like, I never use party words. I don't think I've ever said either party in a sentence, because that's not for me. I focus on facts and numbers and statistics and really try to get the truth and build off of that. And that helps me cut through all of it, because people get so caught up in being on a team or this. And I'm not saying anybody's wrong or right, but what I stay in my messaging is just like, oh, this burned because of this. They didn't have this water, just that anybody with a brain goes, oh my God. And so if you want to have any movement with anything you want people to have, you have to be in facts and true facts, not facts from the people you want the facts, like the actual facts. And everything I've ever posted is facts. They can try to be, oh, he's a conspiracy, spreads disinformation. I will die on everything that I posted, because it is 100% true.
How do you save LA? Not just the homeless thing, but like, how do you save LA? Because I think that everybody has become kind of a meme. right? California's become a meme. I don't live here, but the whole rest of the country kind of looks at California, looks at the problems, and they're like, whoa, man, like this is a state that was gifted. This is the most gifted state geographically, most gifted natural resources, has so much. I call it the crown jewel of America. And yet you can see it, you know, in all the numbers, number one, and all the things you don't want to be number one in: job losses, poverty, taxes, crime, and people outflowing the state. You know, people leaving. So how do you fix something like that, specifically LA?
Well, I go back to what I know and what I experienced with the fire aid scam, and that's just $100 million. And I know how much $100 million could have actually helped fire victims.
Yeah.
So it starts with all the money that's getting scammed and going to things that people wanted it to go to on the, no matter what party you are, it had a purpose.
$24 billion? $24 billion for homelessness? That's $170,000 per homeless person.
No, and again,
that's the price of a house where I come from.
People will argue, go look at the audit and go look at this. I don't need to, because I can go look that $24 billion makes a big difference in anything you do.
Right.
So if you're increasing something, whatever that audit and whatever that list, it was clearly, even if it wasn't stolen or scammed, you spent it on the wrong things. So it's like you go buy a car and you spend a bunch of money and it's a terrible car. Yeah, you still bought that car, but it was a terrible car. So whatever those investments were, they were terrible. So that is the bottom line. Like, it's as simple as making sure the money for all these things that everybody wanted to go to, these things to help, goes to it. And then past that, that's a big change, because in my mind, if you gave me $24 billion, I know what I could do if I was being honest and genuine, and it was going to people not making salaries, and it wasn't, you could do a lot with that type of money. I could have done so much with $100 million in the Palisades, in Altadena, easily. By working with the community, talking to the actual victims, who's stuck here, what small business. Like, right after the fire, I had a brand that didn't want to be politicized, but they gave me $50,000 to go give out $10,000 checks. And I never posted it because, you know, I didn't want those people to feel any type of way. But I knew, because I handed those checks or whatever, where it's just a cash one, like a cashier's check, to these, you know, to these very small businesses. And just that $10,000, you would have thought like I came down from heaven. So if $10,000 to these small business fire victims created that like hope and energy and whatever it could think, what can you break up $100 million to? You know, so let's expand that to the $24 billion, or, you know, I don't even know the numbers, and that's how they will try to come at you, because I don't have them factual, but the numbers are so big that it's enough that we can save LA, we can save California. People who are taxed want their money to go to the things that they want fixed.
Yes.
People don't want to see encampments. They don't want to see people on drugs.
Yes.
Both sides, whatever political party, any human beings don't want to see dogs getting tortured, killed, mutilated. These are just like, these are things I focus on that are just common sense, basic humanity things. And I think it starts with the money.
Listen, I think the most inspiring thing about your story and what you're doing here is that people aren't used to seeing celebrities do things for good. They're used to seeing celebrities like build a well in Africa, that's fine, but like they forget their own communities and they forget their country. And celebrities don't work on behalf of their nation, and they don't work on behalf of America, and they almost feel ashamed of it. And like, you're holding down for your community. It's neat to see a celebrity actually do that. That's what's inspiring about it, is we become so black-pilled and jaded that like our celebrities just kind of hate us, actually. And I think that's led to a collapse of Hollywood, right? And I think that's pretty self-evident. And I think that's led to a lot of out-of-touch celebrities that have done it to themselves. There are no victims here. But I think that's really neat for people. I think that people are like, wow, like that guy's really holding it down.
I would say we still have no celebrities, because as Gavin Newsom called me, I'm a C-list reality star. So,
okay.
Let's be clear on my, I don't want to gas myself up. I don't think
He'd probably call Trump the same thing. Would he call Trump the same thing?
I've reached out to a lot of actual, as how the internet would call, real celebrities whose houses burned down, ghosts. And I make very clear, I don't need anything political out of you. No, just come, show what this is. Like, that's why I'm happy you're here. And I don't know the opposite of you, who that is. I'm happy if they sit here. Anybody that comes and shows, that's it. That's the statement. It's been over a year, 7,000 homes burned to the ground, and maybe there's 300-400 houses in the works, and that's it. Those are the people that have the money that like can do it. It's not like there's not more because, that's the reason. Nobody else can do it. That will go on a news thing and kind of like, yes, I lost my house. Oh, and the movie comes out this Friday. So I don't.
See Avatar 9.
I don't name them because like my wife talked me down from that because she's like, I also have never been a celebrity that risk sabotaging potential $1 million projects. So I can't be in their shoes and judge them. And now I also don't judge firefighters who don't come forward with the truth because they risk retaliation or state part. There's a lot of people that want in their hearts, they want the truth to come out, but they're scared of retaliation, whether they're a firefighter, whether they're an A-list Hollywood actor and saying the wrong thing. Just today, I lost 2 serious projects, one ad deal and one television show thing that was happening just based off of, we can't do political. We don't want to look. I'm like, I'm not doing political. I'm trying to save my community, my city. There's nothing I've said that is controversial. But today. So I see the other side why I don't name all the people that were part of Fire Aid that went there and went on the stage and performed and have never said, hey, I've heard that none of that money went to the victims. And they never, it is what it is. So you're welcome to all you celebrities that my wife has more connected with Jesus than I am. So yes.
You want to end on that? You want to what does that brought you closer to your faith? Shout out Jesus, Jesus brought you closer.
Thankfully, I've been married to a preacher for almost 20 years. Shout out Pratt prayers. So I've always been like, even I'm the crystal guy and people are like, oh, he's a wizard. He's like, you can't work. I don't worship stones. I love beautiful things from the earth that God created. But there's always been this thing that, I'm with the dark forces because I was into crystals. First off, all my crystals burn. So, don't worry, guys. I clearly know they're not too magical. But some people say they exploded and made more superpowers for me, so you could look at it both ways.
All right.
But the thing that I
can see the evidence of that.
The thing that I can keep going back to, because I talk to now God so much and I'm like, why would you do this?
Yes.
And if God were ever to burn somebody's house down, that if he really wanted real change to happen, he burned my house down. If you really wanted me to be mad, you burn my mom's house down and have me talking to my crying mom every single day for a year. So that's where I always go back. If God really wanted and then I think, okay, what if I start saving lives by making changes in LA? Now I'm already got the whole plan. What if I save all these dogs?
Yes.
Now maybe God didn't want all these dogs getting mutilated. So I start going to the bigger picture of I got murked for more,
But bro, that's how God works. The entire Old Testament, the New Testament, bad things happen to people and God pulls them through to righteousness, to God's plan on the other side. And everyone goes through tough things. Christ all the way on down goes through the crucifixion, and then they come out on the other side and they're so much more powerful and they're so much more redeemed and they're so much more blessed. It always happens that way. It's always the same. It's the story of God.
Well, I also in my head, I always hear, now it's 17 years ago, I wanted to make a documentary about the Marine recon guys. So I went to Camp Pendleton, I funded it myself, and I'll never forget the speech that this Marine Corps colonel said, and he was like, if you want to testify, you need to be tested. And so I'm like, oh, okay, God, you were testing me. I'm feeling time to testify. So I go back to that moment because I was like, woof, that was heavy, and it stuck with me for all these years. So I feel very tested, and now it's time to testify.
You feel God moving in your life. You feel the power of God.
I feel big things are coming.
Yes. Yeah.
So thank you.
I can see it.
For coming out, and I hope you bring as much attention to everything that everyone wants changed in LA and Cal. People will argue and come at you and be like, this is a you thing. It's like, no, it's not. I go around all day long. I'm out in these streets and people come up to me all day long and they go, thank you. And it's not in one area. Everybody wants these things I talk about because it's so basic. So,
yes.
Boom.
Boom.
Thank you.
Praise God. So cool. That's so awesome.